Are you still awake late at night when the world grows quiet? Only those who cannot sleep or choose not to dare to listen to the whispers of history. Perhaps you, like me, carry a forgotten time in your heart, a moment no one speaks of anymore. Tonight I'll guide you to a frost-kissed morning in 1363 in a small English village called Witchwood, nestled in the shadow of a crumbling castle. Don't drift away too soon. Some stories are so delicate, so woven with forgotten threads, that if you leave early, they may never be told again. Now turn out the lights, lie down, let the weight of the day slip away, and let me send you to dream of a history that has not yet found its rest. You step gently onto the ancient stone path, the air sharp with the bite of early March. The village of Witchwood stirs slowly, its thatched roofs dusted with frost that glitters faintly under a pale, reluctant sun. Your breath curls in wispy clouds, mingling with the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. The cobblestones beneath your feet are uneven, worn smooth by centuries of boots' hooves and the occasional cartwheel creaking in the distance. A rooster crows its call, thin and brittle, as if protesting the cold. You pull your woolen cloak tighter, its rough fibers scratching against your neck, and notice the muted colors around you. Browns graze the occasional dull green of a peasant's tunic. Color, it seems, is a cautious guest in Witchwood. You pause at the edge of the marketplace, where merchants set up their stalls with practiced hands. The air hums with soft sounds, the clink of copper coins, the rustle of burlap sacks, the low murmur of barter. A woman with a weathered face arranges loaves of rye bread, their crusts cracked like the lines on her hands. Beside her a man hawks turnips, his voice hoarse from shouting into the morning chill. But your eyes catch on something unusual. A flash of crimson bright as a wound in the corner of the square. A young woman no older than 20 stands by a stall, her dress a vivid scarlet that seems to pulse against the drab backdrop of the village. Her hair is tucked beneath a linen cap, but a single dark curl escapes swaying as she adjusts a basket of woven reeds. The dress clings to her frame, its hem brushing the muddy ground, and you can't help but stare. It's beautiful, defiant, and utterly out of place. You step closer, drawn by the color, and overhear 2 villagers whispering nearby. She's bold that Alice, one says, a stout man with a beard like tangled wool, wearing red like that as if she's a lady of the court. His companion, a woman with a basket of onions, snorts softly. Bold or foolish? The king's law says only nobles can wear such colors. She'll catch the magistrate's eye, mark my words. You glance back at Alice, who seems oblivious to their words, her fingers tracing the edge of her basket as she hums a tune so soft it's nearly lost in the market's din. The melody is strange, lilting like something half-remembered from a dream. You wonder if she knows the risk she's taking or if she simply doesn't care. Historically, sumptuary laws in 14th century England, like those enacted under Edward III in 1363, were rigid codes dictating who could wear what based on social rank. Crimson, a color derived from costly kermes dye, was reserved for nobility, as its production demanded wealth and trade connections. Peasants like Alice, if she is indeed a commoner, were forbidden from wearing such hues under penalty of fines, imprisonment, or in rare cases, harsher punishments. Historians debate the enforcement of these laws, though. Some argue they were strictly upheld to maintain social order, citing records of fines in London's courts. Others, like Dr. Margaret Scott in her study of medieval fashion, suggest enforcement was spotty in rural areas like Witchwood, where magistrates might turn a blind eye unless spurred by local rivalries or religious zeal. Was Alice's dress a deliberate act of rebellion or simply ignorance of a law rarely enforced in her village? The truth remains as elusive as the frost now melting under the rising sun. You move closer to Alice's stall where she's selling small bundles of lavender tied with twine. The scent is faint but sweet, cutting through the earthier smells of the market. "Good morrow," she says, her voice soft but clear like a bell muffled by fog. Her eyes meet yours, bright and unguarded, and you notice a small tear at the hem of her dress, as if it's been worn with care but not without struggle. Care for some lavender keeps the moths away, and maybe the magistrate's temper too. She winks, and you can't help but smile at her jest. It's a small act of defiance, this humor as bold as her dress. You wonder if she's heard the whispers, if she knows the danger her crimson gown invites. A sudden shout breaks the moment. Alice Weaver. A man in a dark cloak strides through the market, his boots splashing in a puddle. The crowd parts, and you see the glint of a badge on his chest, the magistrate's deputy, perhaps. His face is stern, but his eyes flicker with something softer, almost reluctant. "You know the law," he says, stopping before her stall. "That color's not for the likes of you." Alice tilts her head, her smile unwavering. "And yet it suits me, don't you think, Master Hugh?" The crowd murmurs, some stifling laughter, others shifting uneasily. You notice the deputy's hand twitch as if unsure whether to seize her or retreat. It's an odd moment, this hesitation, human and uncertain, as if the law itself wavers in the face of her quiet confidence. You linger, the cold seeping into your bones as the deputy mutters something about a summons and stalks away. Alice resumes her humming, but you catch a tremor in her hands as she ties another bundle of lavender. The market resumes its rhythm, but the air feels heavier now, charged with unspoken questions. Did Alice weave the dress herself, knowing its forbidden hue? Historians might argue she was testing the boundaries of a society obsessed with rank, or perhaps she simply loved the color, unaware of its weight. The frost crunches under your feet as you step away, the crimson of her dress lingering in your mind like an ember in the dark. You'll see her again, you're certain, just as you'll hear more of Witchwood's strange laws. For now the morning unfolds slow and cold, and the village holds its secrets close like a cloak against the wind. The morning in Witchwood lingers, its chill wrapping around you like a damp shawl. As you wander from the marketplace, the memory of Alice's crimson dress burning bright in your mind. The cobblestones under your feet are slick now, the frost melting into tiny rivulets that catch the weak sunlight. You hear the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, steady as a heartbeat, and the faint bleating of sheep from fields beyond the village. The air carries the scent of wet wool and charred wood mingling with something sharper, perhaps the tang of dye from a workshop nearby. Your steps slow as you follow the scent, drawn toward a narrow lane where the houses lean close, their timber frames dark with age. You're not sure why, but you feel compelled to find Alice again, to understand the woman who dared to wear a color forbidden by the king's law. The lane opens to a small courtyard where a low stone building hums with quiet activity. A wooden sign, faded and splintered, creaks above the door, Weaver's Shop ***. You push the door open and a bell jangles softly, its sound swallowed by the warmth inside. The air is thick with the earthy smell of wool and the sharp, almost metallic bite of dye vats simmering in the corner. Skeins of thread hang from wooden beams, their colors muted browns, ochres dull blues, but one corner of the room glows with a secret. A single skein of crimson thread, vibrant as blood, dangles behind a curtain of burlap, half hidden as if it knows its own danger. You remember Alice, her dress a defiant slash of red in the market, and wonder if this is her work. Alice stands at a loom, her hands moving with practiced grace, guiding a shuttle through threads that hum under her touch. Her fingers are stained red at the tips, as if she's dipped them in wine, and you realize she's been working with the forbidden dye. The loom clacks softly, a rhythm like a lullaby, and the firelight casts flickering shadows across her face. She looks up, her eyes catching yours, and smiles faintly. "You again," she says, her voice low like the rustle of leaves. "Come to buy a thread or to tattle to the magistrate." Her tone is teasing, but there's a sharpness beneath it like a needle hidden in cloth. You chuckle the sound soft in the warm room and shake your head. "Just curious," you say, and she laughs, a sound as bright as her dress but fleeting. You sit on a stool near the fire, its warmth easing the ache in your bones. "That red," you say, nodding toward the hidden skein. "It's bold." Alice pauses, her hands stilling on the loom. "Kermis," she says, her voice almost reverent. "Crushed from insects brought from lands I'll never see. Cost me a month's wages." She leans closer, her eyes glinting. "But it sings, doesn't it? Makes you feel alive." You nod, captivated by the way the crimson thread seems to pulse in the dim light, as if it carries a heartbeat of its own. Historically, kermis dye was a luxury in 14th century England, its rich red hue reserved for nobility under sumptuary laws like those of 1363. Producing it required thousands of insects harvested and processed at great expense, making it a symbol of wealth and status. For a weaver like Alice to possess it was a quiet act of rebellion or perhaps a reckless indulgence. Historians puzzle over why commoners risked such defiance. Some, like Dr. John Stiles, argue that sumptuary laws were less about enforcement and more about signaling social hierarchy, with rural artisans like Alice bending rules to gain prestige among peers. Others, citing court records from York, suggest personal motives, love, pride, or even spite drove such acts, as fines were rare, but social consequences steep. Was Alice weaving her crimson dress to claim a moment of beauty, or to challenge the rigid order of witchwood? The answer lies hidden like the skein behind the curtain. A sudden knock at the door startles you both. An older woman, her face creased like old parchment, steps inside her cloak, a drab gray. "Alice," she says, her voice sharp but low, "they're talking in the village. They say you mocked Master Hugh." Alice's smile falters, but she shrugs. "Let them talk. They'll tire of it by market's end. Besides, my dress is prettier than their gossip." The woman frowns but softens, placing a coin on the table for a bundle of thread. As she leaves, she mutters, "Mind yourself, girl. Red's a dangerous color." You catch the worry in her eyes, an odd moment of tenderness amid the warning, and wonder if she's seen others punished for less. Alice resumes her work, but her movements are slower now, her fingers lingering on the crimson thread. "My mother taught me to weave," she says almost to herself. "Said every thread tells a story. This one—" She trails off, her eyes distant. You notice a small wooden charm on her wrist, carved with a flower worn smooth from years of touch. It's a human detail, a reminder that Alice is more than her defiance. She's someone's daughter, someone with dreams woven into every stitch. You want to ask more, but the fire crackles and the moment feels too fragile to break. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the shutters, and you hear a distant bell tolling noon. Alice glances at the door, her stained fingers tightening on the shuttle. "They'll come for me soon," she says, her voice steady but quiet. "The magistrate or someone with a grudge. They always do." She laughs softly, a wry sound. "Maybe I'll tell them red's just a color, not a crime. Think they'll listen." You smile, caught by her humor, but the weight of her words lingers. You think of the deputy in the market, his hesitation, and wonder if he'll be the one to decide her fate. As you rise to leave, the scent of dye and wool clings to you, heavy and warm. The crimson thread catches the firelight one last time, a reminder of Alice's quiet rebellion. You step back into the cold lane, the cobblestones slick underfoot, and hear the faint clack of her loom behind you, steady as a pulse. The village of Witchwood hums with its secrets, and you know you'll return to this lane, to Alice and her forbidden dye. For now the day stretches on, and the air grows colder, carrying the whisper of laws that bind the village like threads in a tapestry. The chill of Witchwood's afternoon settles into your bones as you leave Alice's workshop, the scent of kermes dye and warm wool lingering on your cloak. The narrow lane is quieter now, the cobblestones glinting with a thin sheen of melted frost, reflecting the pale gray sky above. You hear the soft creak of a cartwheel in the distance, the low moan of wind slipping through the gaps in timbered houses, and the faint rhythmic clack of Alice's loom fading behind you. Your thoughts drift to her crimson dress, that bold slash of color in the market, and the deputy's warning that hung in the air like a storm cloud. You wonder where the law will lead her, and your steps turn toward the heart of the village where the magistrate's hall looms its stone walls dark with age and moss. The hall stands at the edge of the village square, a squat building with narrow windows that seem to squint against the daylight. You push open the heavy oak door, its hinges groaning like an old man roused from sleep. Inside, the air is damp and heavy, smelling of mildew and old parchment, with a faint trace of beeswax from candles flickering on a long wooden table. The stone floor is cold beneath your feet, each step echoing in the cavernous space. At the far end of the hall, behind a high bench, sits the magistrate, Sir William of Thornby, his face stern as the stone around him. His robes are a deep, permitted blue, noble, costly, and perfectly legal under the sumptuary laws of 1363. His eyes, sharp and gray, fix on you for a moment before returning to a stack of papers before him, his quill scratching like a beetle on wood. You stand near the back unnoticed as a small crowd gathers villagers with disputes over pigs' debts or land boundaries. The hall feels like a theater of judgment, its air thick with tension and the faint rustle of cloaks. A young man, his tunic a drab brown, steps forward to plead his case about a stolen goose. Sir William listens, his face unchanging, but you notice his fingers pause, tapping the table as if bored. Next he barks and the crowd shifts. Then the door swings open and Alice enters, her crimson dress glowing like an ember in the dim light. The room falls silent save for the soft drip of water from a leak in the roof, each drop a tiny accusing note. Alice Weaver. Sir William says, his voice low but carrying the weight of authority. You stand accused of breaking the king's law. Crimson is not for your kind. His words are cold, but you catch a flicker in his gaze, something human, perhaps pity or even admiration. Alice stands tall, her stained fingers clasped before her, the wooden flower charm on her wrist catching a stray beam of light. "My lord," she says, her voice steady, "I wove this dress with my own hands. If it's a crime to make beauty, then I'm guilty. But I'll not apologize for it." A murmur ripples through the crowd, and you stifle a smile at her boldness. It's like watching a sparrow challenge a hawk, and you can't help but admire the spark in her. Historically, magistrates in 14th century England, like those under Edward III, enforced sumptuary laws to maintain social order, but records show their application was inconsistent. Court documents from the period, such as those in the Public Record Office, detail fines for wearing forbidden colors, yet rural magistrates often wielded discretion swayed by local politics or personal bias. Historians like Dr. Laura Crombie argue that men like Sir William might overlook minor infractions to avoid unrest, while others citing cases in Norwich suggest magistrates used laws to settle personal scores. Was Sir William's hesitation a sign of leniency, or was he weighing the social cost of punishing a weaver whose skill the village relied on? The ambiguity lingers as murky as the hall's damp air. A strange moment unfolds. Sir William leans forward, his quill still, and asks, "Why, Crimson Girl, why risk so much for a color?" Alice pauses, then smiles faintly. "Because it makes me feel like I'm more than just a weaver, my lord. Like I'm someone." The crowd shifts, some nodding, others whispering. You notice an old woman in the corner, her hands twisting, a gray shawl tears in her eyes. It's an odd human moment, this glimpse of Alice's heart laid bare before a man who holds her fate. Sir William's face softens almost imperceptibly, and he mutters, foolish but honest. He waves a hand, dismissing her. "Return tomorrow. I'll decide then." The crowd gasps, and you wonder if he's delaying to spare her or to prolong her fear. As Alice leaves her dress, a fading glow against the gray hall, a young boy darts forward, tugging at her sleeve. "You look like a queen, Alice," he says, grinning. The crowd chuckles, and even Sir William's lips twitch, a rare crack in his stern facade. "Careful, lad," he says, "or I'll have you in blue next, and we'll all be in trouble." The laughter is soft like a breeze through the hall, and you smile at the absurdity of it, a magistrate joking about the very laws he enforces. It's a moment of lightness, like a candle flicker in the gloom, but it doesn't erase the weight of tomorrow's judgment. You step outside, the cold air sharp against your face, carrying the scent of wood smoke and wet straw from the square. The magistrate's hall looms behind you, its windows dark now as the candles are snuffed out. You think of Alice's crimson thread hidden in her workshop and the flower charm on her wrist, a small piece of her story. You remember the deputy in the market, his hesitant warning, and wonder if he'll report to Sir William tonight. The village feels alive with secrets, each one a thread in a tapestry you're only beginning to see. Historians may debate Sir William's motives, but you sense he's caught in the same web as Alice, a web of laws, pride, and human hearts. For now the afternoon fades, and Witchwood settles into dusk, its colors muted, but its stories vivid, waiting for you to return. The dusk in Witchwood wraps you in its quiet embrace, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and the faint, sweet decay of fallen leaves. The village square lies still now, its cobblestones slick with evening mist reflecting the last glimmers of a sun sinking behind the hills. You hear the soft toll of a bell, low and mournful, calling the faithful to evening prayer. Your thoughts linger on Alice, her crimson dress, a bold defiance in the magistrate's hall, and the weight of Sir William's undecided judgment. The memory of her flower charm, worn smooth by years of touch, tugs at you, urging you toward the stone church at the village's edge, where answers, or perhaps more questions, might wait. You pull your cloak tighter, its wool scratching softly against your skin, and follow the bell's call. The Church of St. Mary stands ancient and unyielding, its gray stone walls etched with lichen and the faint scars of time. You step through the arched doorway, the wood creaking under your hand, and the air shifts cool, musty, thick with the scent of old incense and wax. Inside, the light is dim, filtering through narrow stained-glass windows that cast fractured reds and blues across the stone floor like scattered jewels. Candles flicker on the altar, their flames trembling as if whispering secrets to the shadows. The pews are mostly empty, save for a few villagers kneeling in prayer, their murmurs soft as the rustle of dry leaves. You slip into a pew near the back, the wood worn smooth and cold beneath your fingers, and feel the silence settle over you like a heavy blanket. A priest, Father Gregory, moves slowly at the altar, his robes a plain brown, acceptable for his station under the sumptuary laws of 1363. His hands tremble slightly as he adjusts a candle, and you notice his eyes dart toward the door as if expecting someone. You remember Alice's bold words in the magistrate's hall, her crimson dress a challenge to the king's law, and wonder if the church too watches her with judgment. Historically, the medieval church often reinforced sumptuary laws, viewing bright colors like crimson as signs of vanity or defiance against divine order. Sermons from the period, like those recorded in Canterbury's archives, warned that such displays could invite God's wrath or worse, the devil's attention. Yet historians debate the church's role in enforcement. Some, like Dr. Helen Castor, argue priests used moral rhetoric to control behavior, while others, citing rural parish records, suggest many clerics ignored minor infractions, focusing on greater sins. Did Father Gregory see Alice's dress as a sin or merely a weaver's pride? You shift in the pew, the wood creaking softly, and notice a small girl no older than 7 kneeling nearby. Her hair is a tangle of curls, and she's clutching a scrap of blue cloth bright enough to raise eyebrows under the law. She hums a tune, the same lilting melody you heard from Alice in the market, and the sound feels like a thread connecting them across the village. The girl giggles suddenly, her laughter bright and startling in the solemn church. "Shh, child," an older woman beside her whispers, but the girl grins, whispering back, "The angels like blue, don't they?" You smile at her innocence, a light moment in the heavy air, but the woman's frown deepens as if the child's words carry a dangerous weight. Father Gregory steps to the pulpit, his voice low and measured like the toll of the bell. "Brothers and sisters," he begins, "we are but dust, and to dust we return. Let not vanity clothe us in colors that belong to God's chosen." His eyes sweep the room, lingering on the girl's blue cloth, and you feel a chill, wondering if he's thinking of Alice. The sermon continues, a warning against pride, but you notice his hands clutch the pulpit tightly as if wrestling with his own words. It's an odd human moment, this priest caught between duty and doubt, his stern warning softened by a flicker of hesitation. You think of Sir William's pause in the hall, the deputy's reluctant warning in the market, and wonder if Witchwood's enforcers are as uncertain as its rebels. After the sermon, you linger as the villagers file out, their footsteps echoing in the emptying church. The girl with the blue cloth skips past, dropping it on the floor. You pick it up, its weave rough but vibrant, and hand it back to her. "Careful," you say gently, "colors can cause trouble here." She giggles again, whispering, "It's my secret treasure." Her mother, overhearing, sighs, but smiles, a rare crack in the village's tension. "She's too young to understand," she says, "but we all learn soon enough." You nod, thinking of Alice's stained fingers and her hidden crimson thread, and wonder if the girl will one day weave her own rebellion. As you step outside, the night air is sharp, carrying the scent of pine and distant smoke. The church bell tolls once more, a single note that fades into the dark. You glance back at the stained glass windows, their colors now black against the night, and feel the weight of Father Gregory's words. Historians might argue whether the church's warnings were about faith or control, but here in Witchwood they feel like a shadow over Alice's crimson dress. You think of her charm, the flower carved in wood, and the weaver's shop where the loom's clack echoes like a heartbeat. The village is quiet now, its secrets tucked into the folds of night, but you know you'll return to Alice, to the laws that bind her, and to the stories woven into every thread. For now you walk back toward the square, the mist curling around you, and let the church's silence linger, a warning and a lullaby in one. The night is settled over Witchwood like a heavy quilt, but dawn creeps in now, soft and tentative, painting the sky with streaks of pale gold. You step back into the village square, the cobblestones still damp from last night's mist, their slick surfaces catching the first light. The air smells of fresh baked bread and the faint, acrid tang of charcoal from a nearby hearth. The market is waking its stalls, slowly filling with the clatter of wooden crates and the low hum of voices. You hear a merchant's call, sharp but weary, and the soft thud of a sack hitting the ground. Your thoughts drift to Alice, her crimson dress, a bold spark in the magistrate's hall, and the priest's warning in the church, his words heavy with divine judgment. You wonder if she's here today, weaving her quiet defiance among the stalls. The square buzzes with life, but there's a tension beneath it like a thread pulled too tight. You move through the crowd, your cloak brushing against rough wool tunics and the occasional smooth linen of a wealthier trader. The colors around you are muted browns, grays, faded greens, safe under the sumptuary laws of 1363 that dictate who may wear what. But as you pass a stall piled with apples, their red skins dull in the morning light, you catch a glimpse of something hidden. A merchant, his face creased with age, slips a small bundle of bright purple cloth beneath his counter, his eyes darting to ensure no one notices. You pause, pretending to inspect a basket of turnips, and see another trader, a woman with a sharp gaze, tuck a strip of golden thread into her sleeve. It's a hushed rebellion, these forbidden hues concealed in plain sight, and you feel a thrill at being part of their secret. You approach the apple merchant, his hands rough as the bark of the trees he tends. "Fine apples, traveler," he says, his voice gruff but kind. You nod, picking up a fruit, its skin cool and waxy under your fingers. "I saw your cloth," you say softly, and his eyes narrow, then soften. "Aye, well," he mutters, leaning closer, a bit of purple. "Never hurt anyone, did it? Just don't tell Master Hugh." He winks, and you chuckle, thinking of the deputy's hesitant warning in the market days ago. "My lips are sealed," you say, and he grins, slipping you an extra apple. "Good soul," he says, unlike some who'd sell their neighbor for a penny. It's a light jest, but it carries the weight of a village bound by watchful eyes. Historically, sumptuary laws like those of Edward III aimed to curb extravagance, but they also sparked subtle resistance. Records from 14th century markets, such as those in London's Guildhall, show traders hiding restricted goods, silks, dyes, or furs to sell to eager buyers willing to risk fines. Historians debate the motives behind this defiance. Some, like Dr. Sarah Rhys-Jones, argue it was economic, with merchants capitalizing on demand for luxury goods despite the risks. Others, citing personal accounts and chronicles, suggest it was cultural, a quiet assertion of identity against rigid class boundaries. Were Witchwood's traders rebelling for profit or to claim a piece of beauty forbidden to them? The answer lies buried in the market's whispers, as elusive as the purple cloth under the counter. You move on the apple's weight, comforting in your hand, and spot Alice at her stall, her crimson dress hidden beneath a gray cloak. Her fingers still stained red from kermes dye arrange bundles of lavender, their scent sharp and soothing. She catches your eye and smiles, but it's strained, as if the magistrate's summons weighs on her. Back again, she asks, her voice soft as the morning mist. "You must love lavender or trouble." You laugh, the sound mingling with the market's hum, and reply, "Maybe both." She hands you a sprig, her flower charm glinting on her wrist, and you notice a small tear in her cloak, as if she's worn it to shield her defiance. It's a human moment, this quiet care she takes, hiding her rebellion while her eyes still spark with it. A commotion stirs nearby. A young boy, the same one who called Alice a queen in the magistrate's hall, runs through the crowd, his tunic a faded brown but with a bright green ribbon tied to his belt. "Look," he shouts, waving it like a banner. His mother, the woman from the church with the blue cloth, grabs his arm, her face pale. "Hide that, Tom," she hisses, but the boy laughs oblivious. "It's just a ribbon. Ma makes me a knight." The crowd chuckles, a ripple of warmth, but you see a man in a dark cloak, Master Hugh the deputy, watching from a distance. His gaze is cold, but he doesn't move, and you wonder if he's tired of enforcing laws that even a child defies. It's another thread of rebellion, small but bright, woven into Witchwood's tapestry. You linger at Alice's stall, the lavender's scent curling around you like a lullaby. She leans closer, her voice barely a whisper. "They're all doing it, you know," she says, nodding toward the merchants. "Hiding colors, breaking rules. It's not just me." Her eyes flicker with something, pride, fear, or both. You think of the priest's sermon warning of vanity and Sir William's pause in the hall, his judgment still pending. The market hums with secrets, each stall a small act of defiance, and you feel caught in its rhythm like a thread in Alice's loom. Historians might argue whether these acts were bold or foolish, but here in the morning light they feel like a quiet chorus singing against the law's cold grip. The sun climbs higher, warming the square, and you step away, the lavender sprig tucked into your cloak. The market sounds fade, merchants' calls, the clink of coins, the boys' laughter as you move toward the village's edge. You think of Alice's stained fingers, the flower charm, the hidden purple cloth, and the green ribbon waving like a flag. Witchwood is alive with color despite the laws that seek to mute it, and you know you'll return to this market, to its secrets and its rebels. For now the day unfolds soft and slow, and the village holds its breath, waiting for the magistrate's next move. The morning in Witchwood has warmed the sun, now a soft glow above the village, casting long shadows across the marketplace where you linger. The air carries the scent of fresh hay, mingled with the sharp tang of ale from a nearby tavern and the faint sweetness of Alice's lavender still tucked into your cloak. The cobblestones are dry now, their uneven surfaces warm under your feet, and the market hums with life, merchants calling baskets, clattering, a dog barking in the distance. You think of Alice, her crimson dress hidden beneath a gray cloak, and the hushed rebellion of the traders with their forbidden purple and gold. The boy's green ribbon waving like a tiny flag dances in your memory, as does the deputy's watchful gaze. But now a new sound cuts through the market's rhythm, a whisper, urgent and sharp, spreading like sparks on dry tinder. You pause near a stall piled with coarse wool blankets, their earthy smell grounding you. Two women stand nearby, their heads bent close, their voices low but insistent. They say a woman was burned. One murmurs, her hands twisting a frayed apron. In York last spring for wearing scarlet. Burned alive just for a dress. Her companion, a younger woman with flour-dusted hands, gasps softly. Surely not, she says, but her eyes dart nervously as if the flames might find Witchwood next. You step closer, the blanket's rough fibers brushing your hand, and listen. The story grows with each telling, a weaver, a widow, a girl, the details shifting like smoke. The women glance at Alice's stall where she's tying lavender bundles, her stained fingers moving swiftly. She'd best be careful, the older woman says. That red of hers is trouble. You feel a chill despite the sun's warmth, and think of Alice in the magistrate's hall, her bold words to Sir William, and the priest's warning in the church about divine wrath. Historically, sumptuary laws in 14th century England, like those of 1363, carried penalties ranging from fines to public humiliation, but burning was rare, reserved for heresy or treason. Chronicles from York, such as the *Annalise Monastici*, mention no executions for dress alone, yet folklore persisted, fueled by fear and exaggeration. Historians debate the source of such rumors. Some, like Dr. Mark Ormrod, argue they were cautionary tales spread by clergy to enforce moral order, while others, citing oral histories, suggest they stemmed from local jealousies, with rivals accusing each other of crimes to settle scores. Was the York burning real, or a shadow cast by Witchwood's fears aimed at Alice's crimson defiance? You wander toward Alice's stall, the lavender's scent sharp against the market's earthier notes. She looks up, her eyes tired but bright, the flower charm on her wrist catching the light. Heard the whispers, she asks, her voice soft, almost amused. They've got me burned already, haven't they? You nod, unsure whether to smile or frown, and she laughs, a small, defiant sound. Let them talk. If I'm to burn, I'll make it a grand fire. Her jest is light, but her hands tremble slightly as she ties another bundle, and you see the weight of the rumor settling on her. It's a human moment, this mix of bravado and fear, and you want to comfort her, but the words feel too heavy, like the stones of the church. A sudden shout breaks the moment. "Mind your wares," a merchant calls as a cart nearly topples a stack of cabbages. The crowd laughs, and you catch a glimpse of the boy from the church, Tom, darting through the stalls, his green ribbon still tied to his belt. He trips, landing in the dirt, and a passing trader, his tunic a safe gray, helps him up. "Careful, lad," the man says, grinning. "That ribbon'll have you knighted or whipped." Tom giggles, dusting himself off, and you smile at the scene, a brief spark of warmth amid the rumor's chill. The market resumes its rhythm, but the whispers linger, curling like smoke around Alice's stall. You sit on a barrel near her, the wood rough and splintered under your hands. "Do you believe it?" you ask, nodding toward the gossiping women. The burning in York. Alice pauses, her stained fingers resting on a lavender sprig. "I believe people love a story," she says. "True or not, it keeps them in line. Or tries to." Her eyes meet yours, and you see a flicker of something, defiance, yes, but also a quiet sorrow, as if she knows the rumor's power. You think of the deputy master, Hugh, watching from the market's edge, and Sir William's hesitation in the hall. Even Father Gregory's sermon warning of vanity feels like part of this web binding the village in fear and law. The sun climbs higher, warming the square, and you notice a small crowd gathering near a baker's stall. A woman, her apron dusted with flour, shares the York story again, her voice louder now, embellishing details: a scarlet gown, a jealous rival, a pyre at dawn. The crowd murmurs, some crossing themselves, others shaking their heads. You catch Alice watching, her face unreadable, and wonder if she's imagining her own fate. The lavender in your cloak feels heavier now, its scent a reminder of her defiance, and the flower charm that ties her to a past you don't yet know. Historians might argue whether the York burning was fact or fiction, but in Witchwood it's real enough to cast a shadow over every bright thread. As you rise to leave, the market sounds soften, the clink of coins, the rustle of sacks, the boys' laughter fading into the crowd. You glance back at Alice, her gray cloak a fragile shield over her crimson dress, and feel the weight of the village's eyes. The rumor of the burning, true or not, is a fire of its own spreading through Witchwood's heart. You think of the hidden purple cloth, the green ribbon, the priest's trembling hands, and Sir William's uncertain gaze. The village is a tapestry of secrets, each thread pulling tighter, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of Alice and her forbidden Hugh. For now the day stretches on warm and heavy, and Witchwood holds its breath, waiting for the next spark. The afternoon sun hangs low over Witchwood, its golden light softening the edges of the village square where the market's bustle has quieted to a gentle hum. You walk away from Alice's stall, the lavender sprig in your cloak, releasing a faint, sweet scent with every step. The cobblestones are warm now, their uneven surfaces pressing against your soles, and the air carries the earthy smell of trampled grass and the distant tang of iron from the blacksmith's forge. Your thoughts swirl with the rumor of the York burning, its flames flickering in your mind like the candles in St. Mary's Church. You think of Alice's crimson dress hidden beneath her gray cloak, and the boy Tom's green ribbon waving defiantly. The village feels alive with secrets, and your feet lead you to a narrow alley where a tailor's shop beckons with the promise of more. The shop is a small timbered building, its shutters open to let in the fading light. A sign above the door, carved with a needle and thread, swings gently in the breeze, creaking like a whispered secret. You step inside, and the air shifts warm, heavy with the scent of linen and the sharp bite of lye used to clean fabrics. Bolts of cloth line the walls, their colors muted browns, grays dull blues, but neatly folded as if apologizing for their plainness. A wooden table dominates the room, scattered with pins and scraps of thread, and a small fire crackles in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across the floor. The tailor, a wiry man named Thomas, bends over a tunic, his needle flashing in the firelight, his hand steady despite the tremor you notice in his fingers. You sit on a stool near the door, the wood smooth and cool beneath you, and watch Thomas work. His needle moves with a rhythm like Alice's loom, a soft asterisk, thwip-thwip asterisk that feels like a heartbeat. You notice a small bundle under the table wrapped in sackcloth and catch a glimpse of vibrant green peeking out another forbidden hue hidden like the purple cloth in the market. "You're staring," Thomas says without looking up, his voice gruff but tinged with amusement. "What's caught your eye, my stitches or my sins?" You smile, caught off guard, and reply, "Your stitches for now." He chuckles, a dry sound like rustling leaves. "Good choice. Sins are costlier." It's a light jest, but his eyes flick to the bundle, and you sense the weight of his secret. Historically, tailors in 14th century England were key players in the sumptuary law drama, crafting garments that could either uphold or defy the rigid codes of 1363. Records from the London Tailors Guild show fines for creating garments with forbidden colors or materials for non-nobles, yet rural tailors like Thomas often bent rules for loyal clients. Historians debate their motives. Dr. Stella Mary Newton suggests tailors prioritized profit-sowing bright hues for those willing to pay, while others like Dr. Christopher Dyer argue it was a form of quiet resistance, a way to challenge class boundaries through craft. Was Thomas hiding green cloth for coin, or to weave a small rebellion into Witchwood's fabric? The answer lies as hidden as the bundle under his table. You lean closer, the fire's warmth easing the chill in your bones. "That green," you say softly, nodding toward the bundle. "It's bold like Alice's crimson." Thomas pauses, his needle still, and looks at you, his eyes sharp but not unkind. "Alice, she's got the village in a stir with that dress." He resumes stitching, but his voice lowers. "I sewed it for her, you know. Crimson, her mother's favorite color. Took me a month to get the dye right." His words carry a quiet pride, and you notice a small brass thimble on his finger, dented from years of use, a human detail that ties him to his craft and to Alice's story. You think of her flower charm worn smooth and wonder if Thomas knew her mother too. A knock at the door startles you. A young woman, her cloak a drab brown, steps inside, her eyes darting nervously. "Thomas," she whispers, "have you the blue silk for my sister's wedding?" He frowns, then nods, pulling a small parcel from beneath the table, another forbidden hue, its sheen catching the firelight. Keep it hidden, he warns, handing it over. And don't let Master Hugh see you prancing about in it. She nods, tucking the parcel away, and hurries out, leaving a coin and a nervous smile. Thomas shakes his head, muttering, "Weddings and colors trouble waiting to happen." You laugh softly, imagining the deputy chasing brides through Witchwood, and Thomas grins, a rare crack in his guarded demeanor. The fire pops, sending a spark onto the floor, and you think of the York burning rumor, its flames fed by whispers in the market. Do you believe it, you ask? The woman burned for scarlet. Thomas shrugs his needle, pausing. Stories grow legs, don't they? Maybe she burned, maybe she didn't. But it keeps folks like Alice in line, or tries to. His voice is steady, but his trembling fingers betray him. And you see the fear behind his craft, a man stitching defiance into every seam. You think of Sir William's hesitation in the hall, Father Gregory's trembling hands in the church, and the boy Tom's green ribbon, each a thread in Witchwood's quiet rebellion. As you rise to leave, the shop's warmth clings to you, the scent of linen and lye mixing with the lavender in your cloak. Thomas resumes his work, the asterisk, thwip, thwip asterisk of his needle, a lullaby in the quiet. Outside, the alley is dark now, the sun dipping below the horizon, and the air carries the faint toll of St. Mary's bell calling the village to rest. You think of Alice's crimson dress, the hidden green cloth, and the blue silk bound for a wedding. Historians might debate whether tailors like Thomas were rebels or opportunists, but in Witchwood his stitches feel like a quiet song against the law's cold grip. The village waits its secrets woven tight, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of Alice and her forbidden Hugh. For now the night falls soft and heavy, and Witchwood dreams in muted colors. The evening air in Witchwood is soft and warm, carrying the sweet scent of blooming hawthorn and the faint smoke of bonfires being kindled at the village's edge. You step out from the tailor's shop, Thomas's needle still echoing in your mind, its asterisk, thwip, thwip asterisk, a quiet defiance against the sumptuary laws of 1363. The alley is dark now, the cobblestones cool beneath your feet, but the village is alive with a new energy. Torches flicker in the distance, their golden light dancing on the thatched roofs, and you hear the lilt of a fiddle, its notes weaving through laughter and the clink of mugs. It's the eve of St. Cuthbert's feast, a night when Witchwood forgets its worries or tries to, and you feel drawn to the festival where colors forbidden or not might shine under the stars. You follow the music to a meadow just beyond the village where the grass is soft and damp, tickling your ankles through your worn boots. The bonfires crackle their warmth, pushing back the night's chill, and the air smells of roasted chestnuts, spilled ale, and the earthy musk of trampled earth. Villagers gather in a loose circle, their faces glowing in the firelight, their tunics and cloaks a sea of browns and grays, safe, lawful colors. But as you move closer, you see flashes of defiance, a woman's scarf edged with forbidden purple, a man's belt stitched with golden thread, a young girl's ribbon bright blue like the one Tom clutched in the church. The festival is a canvas of hidden hues, each a quiet rebellion against the king's law, and you feel a thrill as if you're part of their secret. You join the crowd, the fiddle's tune pulling you into a simple dance, your feet finding the rhythm on the uneven ground. The music is lively, but there's a tension beneath it, like a thread stretched tight. You spot Alice near a bonfire, her gray cloak discarded, her crimson dress glowing like the flames themselves. She spins with a group of dancers, her laughter bright but fleeting, and you notice her flower charm catching the light, a small anchor to her defiance. "Care to dance?" she calls to you, her voice warm but edged with mischief. You shake your head smiling and say, "I'd rather watch the trouble you're brewing." She laughs, tossing back trouble. This is just a dress enjoying the night. The crowd chuckles and you grin at her jest, but you see Master Hugh the deputy watching from the shadows, his face unreadable. Historically, festivals in 14th century England were moments of release where sumptuary laws sometimes bent under the weight of celebration. Chronicles from the period, like those of Froissart, describe villagers donning bright colors for feast days, risking fines to express joy or status. Yet historians debate whether these acts were truly policed. Some, like Dr. Margaret Scott, argue rural magistrates often ignored such displays to avoid unrest, citing sparse records of festival-related fines. Others, referencing court rolls from Winchester, suggest local rivalries could prompt harsh enforcement, with neighbors reporting each other to settle grudges. Was Witchwood's festival a safe haven for Alice's crimson dress or a stage for her downfall? The answer flickers like the bonfires, uncertain and warm. You sit on a log near the fire, its heat seeping into your bones, the wood's rough bark catching on your cloak. A young man, his face flushed with ale, stumbles past his tunic, adorned with a single scarlet patch, bold but small enough to claim it's an accident. He winks at you, muttering, "If the magistrate asks, I tripped into a dye vat." You laugh softly, the absurdity lightening the night, but your eyes return to Alice, her dress a beacon in the dance. A woman nearby, her apron stained with flour, leans close. "She's brave, that Alice," she says, her voice low. "My sister wore green once years ago. Fined a month's wages, but no fire, thank God." Her words carry the weight of the York-burning rumor still smoldering in the village's heart, and you wonder how many here dance with fear beneath their joy. A sudden hush falls as a fiddler pauses and a child's voice rings out, Tom the boy from the market, his green ribbon now tied in his hair. "Look, Ma, I'm a forest king," he shouts, spinning wildly. The crowd laughs, his mother's face softening despite her worry, and even Master Hugh's lips twitch, a rare crack in his stern facade. Forest king or fool lad, he calls mind that ribbon doesn't land you in chains. The jest draws, chuckles, a moment of warmth, but you notice Alice pause, her eyes meeting Hugh's. It's a human moment, this silent exchange, her defiance against his duty, yet both seem caught in the festival's spell, unwilling to break it. You lean back, the fire's crackle blending with the fiddle's returning tune, and think of Thomas the tailor, his hidden green cloth, and the blue silk for a wedding. The festival feels like a tapestry of these secrets, each color a stitch against the law's gray thread. You think of Sir William's hesitation in the hall, Father Gregory's trembling hands in the church, and the purple cloth hidden in the market. Historians might argue whether festivals like this were moments of freedom or traps for the bold, but here in the firelight they feel like a breath of life in Witchwood's tightly woven world. Alice spins past, her crimson dress a blur, and you wonder if she'll face Sir William tomorrow, or if the festival's joy will shield her for one more night. The music slows, the bonfires dim, and you rise, the lavender sprig in your cloak brushing against your hand. The meadow grows quiet, save for the soft pop of embers and the rustle of grass underfoot. You glance back at Alice, her dress fading into the crowd, and feel the weight of the village's eyes, some admiring, some accusing. The night air is cool now, carrying the scent of smoke and hawthorn, and Witchwood settles into a fragile peace. You know you'll return to this meadow, to Alice and her dangerous hues, as the laws and rumors swirl like sparks in the dark. For now you walk back toward the village, the stars above bright and silent, and let the festival's warmth linger, a dream woven in forbidden colors. The night of St. Cuthbert's feast lingers in your senses as you leave the meadow, the warmth of the bonfires fading into the cool, damp air of Witchwood's morning. The village stirs slowly, its cobblestones slick with dew, reflecting the pale light of a dawn still shy behind the hills. The scent of roasted chestnuts and spilled ale clings faintly to your cloak, mingling with the lavender sprig tucked inside a gift from Alice and her crimson rebellion. You hear the soft clank of a bucket being set down, the distant crow of a rooster, and the rustle of leaves skittering across the square. Your thoughts drift to Alice's dress glowing in the festival's firelight, and the deputy's fleeting smile at Tom's green ribbon. But a new figure draws your eye, a woman in a vibrant green cloak moving slowly through the village, her presence like a forbidden note in Witchwood's muted song. You follow her, your boots sinking slightly into the muddy path leading past the market, where stalls are still shuttered, their canvas awnings damp and sagging. The woman, older, with silver threading her dark hair, walks with a quiet purpose, her cloak a bold emerald that seems to defy the gray dawn. The sumptuary laws of 1363 reserve such colors for nobility, yet she wears it openly, the fabric catching the light like a forest in spring. You catch up to her near a small cottage, its walls weathered and leaning, where she pauses to adjust a basket of herbs on her arm. The air smells of rosemary and wet earth, and you notice her hands calloused, steady but trembling slightly, as if the cloak's weight is more than fabric. "Good morrow," you say softly, and she turns her eyes sharp but kind like polished stone. You're bold with that green, you add, nodding at her cloak. She smiles, a slow, knowing curve of her lips. Bold, perhaps, or just tired of hiding. Her voice is low-weathered like her cottage, and you learn her name is Marjorie, a widow who tends herbs and heals minor ailments. "They call me a healer," she says, "but this cloak might make me a criminal." She laughs softly, a sound like dry leaves, and you chuckle, thinking of Alice's jest about her own fiery fate. "The magistrate's got enough to worry about," you say, and she nods, her eyes glinting. Aye, but Sir William's eyes miss little. Historically, widows in 14th century England often occupied a liminal space free from some social constraints, but still bound by sumptuary laws. Records from the period, like those in the Canterbury court rolls, show widows fined for wearing colors or fabrics above their station, yet some, especially those with skills like Marjorie's, flouted rules to assert independence. Historians debate whether such acts were defiance or necessity. Dr. Cordelia Beatty argues widows used bright colors to signal status or attract clients, while others, citing rural cases, suggest personal grief or pride drove them, as fines were rare but social stigma harsh. Did Marjorie's green cloak honor a lost love challenge, Witchwood's order, or simply suit her trade? The truth is as elusive as the dawn's light. You sit on a low wall near her cottage, the stone cold and mossy under your hands. Marjorie sets her basket down, revealing sprigs of thyme and sage, their sharp scents cutting through the morning's dampness. "This cloak was my husband's," she says, her fingers brushing the green fabric. "He was a forester, loved the woods. Green was his heart." Her voice softens, and you see a small locket at her throat, etched with a leaf, a human detail that ties her to a past you can only imagine. You think of Alice's flower charm, Thomas's dented thimble, and wonder how many in Witchwood carry such tokens of love against the law's cold grip. A young girl runs up her tunic, plain but her eyes bright. Tom's sister, you realize, from the church and market. "Mistress Marjorie," she calls, holding out a scraped knee. "Can you fix it?" Marjorie kneels, her cloak pooling like a green lake, and applies a salve, her hands gentle. "There, child," she says, "but don't go challenging knights with that knee." The girl giggles, and you smile, imagining Tom's green ribbon and his Forest King antics. "You're as bad as your brother," you say, and the girl grins. "He says I'll be a queen in blue." Marjorie shakes her head, muttering blue, green, crimson witchwoods turning into a rainbow. The jest lightens the air, but you notice a neighbor watching from across the lane, her frown sharp as a needle. You think of the York burning rumor, its flames still smoldering in the village's whispers, and ask Marjorie, "Do you fear the talk, the stories of punishment?" She pauses, her hands stilling on the basket. "Fear's a heavy cloak," she says, "but I've worn heavier. Let them talk, I'll not burn for green." Her words echo Alice's defiance, but there's a weariness in them, a widow's resolve forged in loss. You think of Sir William's hesitation in the hall, Father Gregory's trembling sermon, and Master Hugh's reluctant gaze at the festival. Witchwood's laws feel like a net tightening around its rebels, yet Marjorie stands firm, her green cloak a banner of her own. The morning brightens, the sun breaking through the clouds, and you rise, the lavender sprig brushing against your hand. Marjorie resumes her work, sorting herbs with a quiet hum, the same melody you heard from Alice in the market. The village wakes around you, its sounds, cartwheels, creaking, voices calling, blending into a soft rhythm. Historians might debate whether Marjorie's cloak was a calculated risk or a heartfelt tribute, but here in the dawn's light it feels like a piece of her soul worn openly despite the consequences. You think of Alice's crimson dress, Thomas's hidden green cloth, Tom's ribbon, and the festival's dangerous hues. Witchwood is a tapestry of defiance, each thread a risk, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of Marjorie and her green cloak. For now you walk back toward the square, the air fresh with dew and rosemary, and let the village's secrets settle around you like mist. The morning light in Witchwood grows stronger, the sun now a soft glow above the village, casting long shadows across the muddy path where you leave Marjorie's cottage. The air is crisp-scented with the rosemary from her basket and the faint dampness of dew still clinging to the grass. Your cloak brushes against your legs, the lavender sprig tucked inside, releasing its soothing fragrance, a reminder of Alice's crimson defiance. You think of Marjorie's green cloak bold against the dawn and the festival's hidden hues, purple scarves, golden threads, Tom's green ribbon. The village feels alive with secrets, each a thread in a tapestry of rebellion against the sumptuary laws of 1363. Your steps lead you back toward the square, but a narrow lane draws you to a small stone building, its door ajar where the faint scratch of a quill beckons like a whisper. You step inside and the air shifts cool, musty thick with the sharp tang of ink and the dusty smell of parchment. The scribe's workshop is dim lit only by a single window, its leaded panes letting in slivers of light that dance across a wooden table piled with scrolls. Shelves line the walls, heavy with leather-bound books and bundles of vellum, their edges curling like autumn leaves. The scribe, a slight man named Brother Edmund, sits hunched over a manuscript, his quill moving with deliberate care, each stroke a soft asterisk, scratch, scratch asterisk that fills the quiet. His hands are stained black with ink, the marks creeping up his fingers like vines, and his plain brown robe, lawful for his station, is speckled with tiny dots of ink as if the page has bled onto him. You sit on a bench near the door, the wood creaking softly, its surface worn smooth by years of visitors. Brother Edmund glances up, his eyes tired but sharp behind small, round spectacles. "You're not here for a letter," he says, his voice dry as the parchment before him. Curious about laws, perhaps, or just lost. You smile, caught by his bluntness, and reply, "Laws, maybe." They seem to trouble Witchwood. He chuckles, a sound like rustling pages. Trouble laws are the village's favorite pastime. They'd argue over the color of mud if they could. His jest lightens the air, and you laugh thinking of Tom's Forest King ribbon and the deputy's half-hearted warning at the festival. Edmund returns to his work, copying a proclamation of the king's sumptuary laws, the same ones that bind Alice's crimson dress and Marjorie's green cloak. The parchment lists forbidden colors, crimson, purple, gold for those below noble rank with penalties of fines or worse. Historically, scribes like Edmund were the backbone of medieval bureaucracy, recording laws that shaped daily life. Manuscripts from 14th century England, like those in the British Library, show detailed sumptuary codes, but their enforcement varied. Historians debate the scribe's role. Some, like Dr. Richard Firth Green, argue they were neutral, merely recording the crown's will, while others, citing personal letters, suggest scribes quietly sympathized with rebels, altering records to soften punishments. Did Edmund's steady hand write Alice's fate, or might he smudge a line to spare her? The ink on his fingers holds no answers, only secrets. You lean closer, the table's wood grain rough under your hand, and notice a small wooden cross hanging from Edmund's neck, its edges worn smooth, much like Alice's flower charm or Marjorie's leaf locket. You write the laws that trouble Alice, you say softly. Do they trouble you? He pauses his quill, hovering, a drop of ink trembling at its tip. Laws are words, he says, but people give them life. Alice's dress, Marjorie's cloak, they're just cloth until someone cares enough to judge. His voice is quiet, almost sad, and you see a flicker of doubt in his eyes, a human moment that binds him to the village's rebels. You think of Sir William's hesitation in the hall, Father Gregory's trembling sermon, and Master Hugh's reluctant gaze, each caught in the law's web. A sudden knock interrupts. A young boy, not Tom, but with the same bright energy, bursts in, clutching a scrap of parchment. "Brother Edmund, my ma needs a letter," he says, breathless. Edmund sighs, setting his quill down. "Another love note to a merchant, no doubt," he mutters, but his smile is warm. "Tell her blue ink costs extra, might as well break all the laws at once." The boy laughs, and you chuckle, imagining Master Hugh chasing ink bottles through Witchwood. The moment passes, but the boy leaves a smudge of dirt on the floor, a small mark of life in the scribe's orderly world. You glance at the proclamation, its ink still wet, and think of the York burning rumor, its flames fueled by whispers in the market. "Do you write about burnings?" you ask, half dreading the answer. Edmund's hand stills again. "Stories, not facts," he says. "I've heard of York, but no parchment confirms it. People love a tale to keep them in line." His words echo Marjorie's weariness, Alice's defiance, and you wonder if the scribe's quill could soften the village's fears or sharpen them. The room grows quieter, the asterisk, scratch, scratch, asterisk resuming, and you feel the weight of Witchwood's laws written in ink as black as the shadows pooling in the corners. The morning light shifts, casting a golden glow across the parchment, and you rise, the lavender sprig brushing against your hand. Outside the village hums cartwheels, creaking voices calling, a dog barking in the distance. Historians might debate whether scribes like Edmund were complicit or compassionate, but here in his dim workshop his ink-stained hands feel like a bridge between law and life. You think of Alice's crimson dress, Marjorie's green cloak, Thomas's hidden green cloth, and Tom's ribbon, each a defiance recorded somewhere in Edmund's pages. Witchwood's secrets are written in ink and whispered in rumor, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of Alice and her forbidden Hugh. For now you step back into the lane, the air fresh with dew and the faint scent of ink, and let the village's quiet rhythm lull you forward. The late morning sun bathes Witchwood in a soft golden haze, its warmth easing the chill from the scribe's dim workshop. You step back into the village lane, the air fresh with the scent of dew-soaked grass and the faint, lingering tang of ink from Brother Edmund's stained hands. The lavender sprig in your cloak brushes against your fingers, a quiet reminder of Alice's crimson defiance, Marjorie's green cloak, and the hidden hues of the festival. The village hums softly, cartwheels creak, a woman calls to her child, and a distant hammer rings from the blacksmith's forge. Your thoughts linger on Edmund's words about laws and stories, the York-burning rumor still flickering in your mind like a half-snuffed candle. Drawn by a sudden clatter of hooves, you turn toward the village's edge, where a knight and his squire approach, their silhouettes sharp against the rolling fields. The knight Sir Robert of Dunmere rides a sturdy horse, its breath steaming in the cool air. His banner, once a vibrant blue, is faded to a dull gray, its edges frayed like old memories, lawful for his noble status under the sumptuary laws of 1363. Beside him, his squire, a lanky youth named John, walks with a bounce, his tunic a bright forbidden scarlet that rivals Alice's dress. The contrast is striking, and you hear villagers murmur as they pass, their voices a mix of awe and unease. You follow them to the square, where they stop near the well, the horse's hooves splashing in a puddle, the water's surface rippling like liquid silver. The air smells of wet stone and hay, with a faint whiff of leather from the knight's saddle. You lean against the well, its stone cool and rough under your hands, and watch as John ties the horse to a post. Sir Robert dismounts, his armor clanking softly, and you notice his face lined, weary but kind, like a man who's seen too many battles. "John," he says, his voice low but firm, "your tunic's a beacon for trouble." John grins, brushing dirt from his scarlet cloth. "Trouble, it's just a bit of color, my lord. Makes me look dashing." The knight shakes his head, a faint smile breaking through. "Dashing or doomed, lad. Mind the magistrate doesn't see you." You chuckle, thinking of Master Hugh's reluctant gaze at the festival, and imagine him chasing John's tunic through Witchwood's lanes. The villagers nearby laugh too, but their eyes dart nervously as if expecting Sir William's shadow. Historically, knights in 14th century England were exempt from many sumptuary restrictions, their status allowing bright colors, but their squires, often of lower rank, were not. Court records from the period, like those in the Public Record Office, show squires fined for wearing noble hues, yet enforcement was inconsistent. Historians debate why such breaches sparked disputes. Dr. Peter Koss argues they were status symbols, with squires mimicking their lords to gain prestige, while others, like Dr. Laura Crombie, suggest rural communities used these violations to challenge outsiders, stirring local tensions. Was John's scarlet tunic a bid for glory, or a careless act that could ignite Witchwood's fragile peace? The faded banner above him offers no clues, only a quiet contrast to his boldness. You step closer, the well's damp stone catching on your cloak, and notice a small brass medallion pinned to Sir Robert's cloak, etched with a stag, its edges worn smooth. It's a human detail, a token of some untold story, like Alice's flower charm or Marjorie's leaf locket. "Your banner's seen better days," you say to the knight, nodding at the faded cloth. He glances up, his eyes distant. "Aye, it's carried me through wars and winters," he says. "Colors fade, but duty doesn't." His voice is soft, almost wistful, and you sense a weight behind it, a man bound by honor, yet tired of its cost. You think of Alice facing Sir William Marjorie's weary defiance, and Edmund's ink-stained doubt, each caught in Witchwood's web of laws. A sudden shout breaks the moment. A villager, his tunic a drab brown, points at John's scarlet cloth. "That's no squire's color," he cries, his voice sharp with indignation. The crowd murmurs, and you see Master Hugh emerge from a nearby stall, his face stern but hesitant. "Mind your place, John," he says, but his tone lacks conviction, as if he's weary of policing colors. John laughs, tossing back, "If I'm out of place, Master Hugh arrests the sunrise next, it's too red." The crowd chuckles a ripple of warmth, but the villager's scowl deepens and you feel the tension rise like a thread pulled taut. Hugh retreats, muttering about summons, and you wonder if he'll report to Sir William, whose judgment over Alice still looms. You sit on a bench near the well, the wood splintered but warm from the sun. Sir Robert kneels to draw water, his armor creaking, and you catch John watching the crowd, his scarlet tunic defiant but his eyes nervous. It's a human moment, this young man caught between bravado and fear, much like Alice in the hall or Marjorie by her cottage. You think of the York burning rumor, its flame still smoldering in whispers, and wonder if John's boldness will draw the same scrutiny. Historians might debate whether squires like him were rebels or fools, but here in the square's soft light, his tunic feels like a spark, bright and risky. The knight rises, handing John the bucket, and the squire splashes water on his face, laughing as it drips onto his scarlet cloth. "Ruining my finery already," he jests, and Sir Robert shakes his head, muttering finery or folly, lad. The moment passes and the crowd disperses, but the villager's accusation lingers a shadow over the square. You think of Thomas's hidden green cloth, the festival's forbidden hues, and Brother Edmund's quill scratching laws that bind them all. Witchwood's tapestry is woven with defiance, each color a risk, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of John, Alice, and their dangerous hues. For now you step away from the well, the lavender sprig scent mingling with the air's warmth, and let the village's quiet rhythm carry you forward into the day's unfolding light. The afternoon sun dips lower in Witchwood, casting a warm amber glow across the village square, where the echoes of Sir Robert's faded banner and John's scarlet tunic still linger in your mind. You walk away from the well, the cobblestones smooth and warm beneath your boots, the air thick with the scent of baked bread and the faint musky tang of horses from the night's passing. The lavender sprig in your cloak brushes against your fingers, its fragrance a soft reminder of Alice's crimson defiance, Marjorie's green cloak, and the festival's hidden hues. The village hums quietly, a child's laugh, the creak of a shutter, the distant bleat of sheep, but a new sound draws you, the clink of mugs and the low murmur of voices from the Black Boar Inn nestled at the square's edge. You feel a pull, as if the inn holds a story to match the rumors of York's burning, and you step toward its open door. Inside the inn is warm and dim, its air heavy with the smell of spilled ale, roasted mutton, and the smoky sweetness of burning oak in the hearth. The wooden floor is worn, its planks creaking underfoot, and the walls are lined with benches where villagers sit, their faces softened by the firelight. The innkeeper, a broad man named Giles, moves behind the counter, his apron stained and his hands quick as he pours ale from a wooden jug. His eyes bright despite the lines around them meet yours as you sit at a corner table, its surface scarred from years of use. "A weary traveler, eh?" he says, his voice warm but rough like the oak in the fire. "Ale or a tale?" You smile, thinking of John's jest about the sunrise, and reply, "A tale if it's a good one." Giles grins, wiping his hands on his apron. "Oh, I've got one. Might even keep you awake." He leans closer, the fire's glow catching a small iron ring on his finger, its surface scratched but gleaming. "Heard of the traveler in blue silk?" he begins, his voice dropping to a storyteller's hush. "Came through Witchwood years back, wore a cloak bright as a summer sky, forbidden by law. Fined and flogged, she was right in this square. The other patrons lean in their mugs, forgotten, and you feel a chill thinking of the York burning rumor and Alice's crimson dress." Giles pauses, pouring himself a sip of ale, and adds, "Some say she was a merchant's wife, others a runaway nun. Either way, the law caught her." His tale feels alive like the flames in the hearth, but you notice a flicker of doubt in his eyes as if he's not sure where truth ends and story begins. Historically, sumptuary laws in 14th century England targeted travelers as much as locals, with records like those in the London court rolls showing fines for merchants or wanderers wearing restricted colors. Yet such stories often grew in the telling, especially in rural inns like the Black Boar. Historians debate their veracity. Dr. John Hatcher argues innkeepers like Giles spread exaggerated tales to entertain or warn, citing oral traditions in chronicles, while others like Dr. Marianne Kowaleski suggest some punishments were real but rare, amplified by gossip to enforce social norms. Was the woman in blue silk a real victim of Witchwood's laws, or a tale woven to scare rebels like Alice? The inn's smoky air holds no answers, only the weight of Giles's words. You lean back the chair, creaking softly, and notice a woman at a nearby table, her hands clutching a mug, her eyes distant. She's older, her shawl a lawful gray, but a single blue thread is woven into its hem, barely visible in the dim light. "I knew her," she says, her voice soft but clear. "The traveler, not flogged, just fined." She laughed as she paid, said blue was worth it. Her words are a human moment, a quiet defiance echoing Alice's boldness and Marjorie's weary resolve. You think of the flower charm, the leaf locket, Sir Robert's stag medallion, each a token tying Witchwood's rebels to their hearts. Giles nods, his ring glinting as he wipes the counter. Aye, that sounds like her. Stubborn as a mule, that one. A sudden laugh breaks the mood. A young man, his tunic patched but clean, raises his mug. "If blue's a crime, Giles, you'd best hide your ale, it's too golden." The room chuckles, and Giles retorts, "Careful, lad, or I'll charge you for the compliment." You smile, the jest a warm spark in the inn's heavy air, and think of Tom's Forest King ribbon and John's scarlet quip to Master Hugh. The laughter fades, but the woman with the blue thread keeps her gaze on her mug, as if the traveler's story is her own. You wonder if she too hides a forbidden hue, or if her thread is a memory of someone lost. You sip your ale, its bitterness sharp on your tongue, and ask Giles, "Do you think Alice will face the same?" His face softens, and he glances toward the door as if expecting her crimson dress to appear. Alice, she's got spirit like that traveler, but spirit burns bright and fast. His words carry the weight of the York rumor, and you think of Sir William's hesitation, Father Gregory's trembling sermon, and Brother Edmund's ink-stained doubt. The inn feels like a crossroads where stories and laws collide, each tale a thread in Witchwood's tapestry. The fire pops, sending a spark onto the floor, and you rise, the lavender sprig scent mingling with the inn's smoky warmth. Outside, the square is quiet now, the sun sinking behind the hills, casting long shadows. Historians might debate whether the blue silk tale was fact or folklore, but here in the Black Boar's glow it feels real enough to haunt Alice's steps. You think of Marjorie's green cloak, Thomas's hidden cloth, John's scarlet tunic, and Tom's ribbon, each a defiance against the law's gray grip. Witchwood's secrets simmer like the inn's hearth, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of Alice and her crimson thread. For now you step into the evening, the air cool and heavy with the scent of wood smoke, and let the innkeeper's tale settle around you like a dream. The evening in Witchwood deepens the sky a soft indigo as you leave the Black Boar Inn, the innkeeper's tale of the blue silk traveler lingering like the aftertaste of ale. The air is cool now, carrying the scent of wood smoke and the faint earthy dampness of the fields beyond the village. Your boots sink slightly into the muddy path, the cobblestones giving way to soft earth, and the lavender sprig in your cloak brushes against your hand, its fragrance a quiet echo of Alice's crimson defiance. You think of Marjorie's green cloak, John's scarlet tunic, and the inn's whispered story, each a thread in Witchwood's tapestry of rebellion against the sumptuary laws of 1363. A soft glow draws you toward a cluster of cottages at the village's edge where a faint light spills from a window and you hear a woman's voice, low and melodic, singing a tune you recognize from Alice's market stall. You approach the cottage, its walls rough with weathered plaster, the thatch sagging under the weight of recent rain. The window is open, letting out the warm scent of stew and the flicker of a tallow candle, its flame dancing in the night breeze. Inside, a peasant woman, Ellen, sits at a wooden table, her hands busy with a needle and thread. Her dress is a plain brown, lawful and unremarkable, but you notice a small ribbon, bright yellow, forbidden for her station, tucked beneath her sleeve, its edge catching the candlelight like a hidden sun. She's young, perhaps Alice's age, with a face worn by work but softened by the song she hums, the same lilting melody you heard in the church from Tom's sister. You knock gently, and she looks up, her eyes wary but kind. "Lost, are you?" she asks, her voice warm, "or just chasing songs in the dark?" You smile, stepping inside the floorboards creaking underfoot. The song, maybe you say, nodding at her ribbon, and that yellow, it's bold. Ellen laughs, a soft, nervous sound, and tucks the ribbon deeper into her sleeve. "Bold or foolish? My mother's ribbon from before the laws got so strict. I keep it for luck." She pauses, her needle still, and you see a small wooden bead on her wrist carved with a star, much like Alice's flower charm or Marjorie's leaf locket. It's a human moment, this quiet attachment to a forbidden hue, and you feel the weight of her small rebellion hidden in the flicker of candlelight. Historically, peasants in 14th century England faced strict sumptuary laws with colors like yellow derived from costly saffron or weld dyes reserved for higher ranks. Court records from York show occasional fines for such violations, but rural enforcement was spotty, often depending on local grudges. Historians debate why peasants risked such acts. Dr. Christopher Dyer suggests they were sentimental, preserving family heirlooms like Ellen's ribbon, while others like Dr. Sarah Rees Jones argue they were subtle protests, small claims to dignity in a rigid hierarchy. Was Ellen's yellow ribbon a keepsake, or a defiance like Alice's crimson dress or Marjorie's cloak? The candle's flame offers no answers, only a soft glow over her secret. You sit at the table, the wood rough and warm under your hands, and watch Ellen stitch a patch onto a child's tunic. You've heard of Alice, you ask, thinking of the crimson dress and the York burning rumor. Ellen nods her eyes on her work. Aye, her and that red dress. The village can't stop talking, Burnings finds all of it. Her voice is steady, but her fingers tremble, and you sense her fear a mirror to Alice's strained smile in the market. They say a woman burned in York for scarlet, you say softly. Ellen shakes her head. Stories to scare us. I'd rather hide my ribbon than lose it. Her words echo Giles's tale in the inn, and you wonder if Witchwood's rumors are stronger than its laws. A sudden giggle breaks the quiet. A small boy no older than 5 darts from a corner, his tunic patched but clean. "Ma, show the ribbon," he says, tugging at her sleeve. The yellow flashes briefly, and Ellen hushes him, her face flushing. "Quiet, Will. You'll have Master Hugh at our door." She winks at you, adding he'd probably trip over his own cloak trying to catch us. You laugh, thinking of Hugh's reluctant gaze at the festival, and the boy grins, mimicking a knight with an imaginary sword. "I'll fight him with yellow," he declares, and you chuckle, imagining Tom's Forest King ribbon joining the fray. The moment is light, a spark in the cottage's dim glow, but Ellen's smile fades as she tucks the ribbon away. You lean back the chair, creaking, and think of Sir William's hesitation in the hall, Father Gregory's trembling sermon, and Brother Edmund's ink-stained doubt. Do you think Alice will be punished, you ask? Ellen pauses, her needle hovering. If they punish her, they'll have to punish half the village, she says. We're all hiding something. Ribbons, cloaks, dreams. Her words carry a quiet strength, and you see the star bead glint a small defiance against the law's gray weight. You think of John's scarlet tunic, Thomas's hidden green cloth, and the blue silk traveler in Giles's tale, each a thread in Witchwood's rebellion. The candle flickers, its tallow scent mingling with the stew's warmth, and you rise, the lavender sprig brushing against your hand. Outside, the night is deep, the air cool and heavy with the scent of wet earth. Historians might debate whether Ellen's ribbon was a sentimental keepsake or a quiet protest, but here in the cottage's glow it feels like a piece of her heart, hidden but alive. You think of Alice's crimson dress, Marjorie's green cloak, Tom's ribbon, and the festival's dangerous hues, each a risk woven into Witchwood's tapestry. The village sleeps now, its secrets tucked into shadows, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of Ellen and her yellow ribbon. For now you step into the dark, the stars above bright and silent, and let the cottage's song linger, a lullaby of defiance and dreams. The night in Witchwood has deepened, the stars above sharp and cold as you leave Ellen's cottage, her yellow ribbon hidden like a secret star beneath her sleeve. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and the faint lingering warmth of her stew mingling with the lavender sprig in your cloak, a quiet echo of Alice's crimson defiance. The village is silent now, save for the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl, its call threading through the dark. Your thoughts drift to Ellen's star bead, Marjorie's green cloak, John's scarlet tunic, and the innkeeper's tale of the blue silk traveler, each a defiance against the sumptuary laws of 1363. As you wander back toward the village square, a new light catches your eye, a golden glow spilling from St. Mary's Church, where a figure in shimmering robes moves like a vision from a dream. You approach the church, its stone walls looming in the moonlight, their lichen-stained surfaces cool to the touch. The heavy oak door is ajar, creaking softly as you slip inside. The air is thick with the scent of incense, sharp and sweet, mingling with the waxy warmth of candles lining the altar. The stained glass windows, dark, now seem to hold their colors in secret, but the golden light comes from a man at the pulpit, Bishop Anselm, his robes a rich forbidden gold that glows like molten sunlight. The sumptuary laws reserve such hues for royalty or high clergy, yet his presence feels like a challenge, a bold stroke against Witchwood's muted palate. You sit in a pew, the wood cold and smooth, and watch him adjust his robes, their heavy folds rustling like whispered prayers. Bishop Anselm's voice fills the church deep and resonant as he rehearses a sermon, his words echoing off the stone walls. Vanity is the devil's cloak, he intones, and yet God clothes the righteous in glory. You notice villagers in the pews, their faces awed but wary, their drab tunics a stark contrast to his golden splendor. The hypocrisy is palpable. Father Gregory warned of vanity in plain brown robes, while Anselm preaches in hues forbidden to most. Historically high clergy in 14th century England often flouted sumptuary laws, their wealth and status granting exemptions. Chronicles like the Vita Edwardi Secundi describe bishops in lavish garments, yet rural parishes like Witchwood's rarely saw such displays. Historians debate Anselm's motives. Dr. John Moorman argues clergy used opulence to assert divine authority, while others, citing parish complaints, suggest it was personal pride risking resentment. Was Anselm's golden robe a symbol of faith or a flaunting of privilege? The incense clouds the answer swirling like doubt. You shift in the pew, the wood creaking softly, and notice a small silver ring on Anselm's finger etched with a cross, its edges worn smooth like Alice's flower charm or Ellen's star bead. His hands pause, clutching the pulpit, and you see a flicker of unease in his eyes, a human moment that belies his grandeur. "The law binds us all," he says, his voice softer now, but God sees the heart. The words feel hollow against his robes, and you think of Alice facing Sir William Marjory's weary defiance and Ellen's hidden ribbon. A villager nearby, an old man with a patched cloak, mutters to his neighbor, "Easy to preach when you're draped in gold." You stifle a smile, imagining Master Hugh trying to find a bishop. "He'd need a ladder to reach that robe," you whisper, and the old man chuckles, a spark of humor in the church's heavy air. A young acolyte, his robe a plain gray, hurries to Anselm's side, carrying a candle that drips wax onto the floor. "My lord," he says, the villagers talk of a weaver in crimson. Anselm's face tightens and he waves the boy away. "Let the magistrate handle it," he says, but his voice wavers as if Alice's defiance unsettles him. You think of the York burning rumor, its flames fed by whispers in the inn, and wonder if Anselm fears his own splendor might draw similar scrutiny. The acolyte trips, nearly dropping the candle, and laughs nervously. Clumsy as a knight in silk, he mutters, and the villagers nearby chuckle, a light moment that cuts through the sermon's weight. You grin, picturing Sir Robert's faded banner and John's scarlet quip to Hugh. The church grows quieter, the candles flickering as Anselm resumes his sermon, his golden robe catching every glint of light. You lean back, the pew's cold wood grounding you, and think of Brother Edmund's ink-stained hands recording laws that Anselm seems to defy. The bishop's ring glints, a small reminder of his humanity, and you wonder if he too feels the law's weight despite his exemptions. Historians might debate whether his robe was a divine claim or a prideful display, but here in St. Mary's glow it feels like a mirror to Witchwood's rebels, Alice, Marjorie, Ellen, John, each wearing their forbidden hues. You think of Thomas's hidden green cloth, Giles's blue silk tail, and Tom's Forest King ribbon, each a thread in the village's tapestry of defiance. The sermon ends, and the villagers file out, their footsteps soft on the stone floor. You linger, the incense's sweetness clinging to your cloak, mingling with the lavender's calm. Anselm steps down, his robes pooling like liquid gold, and you catch his eye for a moment, a flicker of doubt or perhaps recognition, as if he sees the village's secrets in your gaze. Outside, the night air is sharp, the stars brighter now, and the village sleeps, its colors hidden but alive. You think of Sir William's hesitation, Father Gregory's trembling hands, and Master Hugh's reluctant duty, each caught in Witchwood's web. The bishop's golden robe is a bold stroke, but it carries the same risk as Alice's crimson, a challenge to a law that binds them all. You know you'll return to see what becomes of Anselm and his splendor. But for now you step into the dark, the lavender sprig a quiet comfort, and let the church's glow fade into the night's embrace. The dawn in Witchwood breaks softly, a pale light filtering through the mist that clings to the village like a whispered secret. You step away from St. Mary's Church, the golden glow of Bishop Anselm's robe still vivid in your mind, a stark contrast to the muted colors of the village. The air is cool and damp, carrying the scent of wet straw and the faint lingering sweetness of incense from the church blending with the lavender sprig tucked in your cloak. Your boots sink into the muddy path, the cobblestones giving way to soft earth, and you hear the distant toll of a bell, slow and mournful, as if signaling a weightier moment. Your thoughts drift to Alice's crimson dress, Marjorie's green cloak, Ellen's hidden yellow ribbon and the innkeeper's tale of the blue silk traveler, each a defiance against the sumptuary laws of 1363. But a new sound draws you, a low murmur of voices gathering at the village square where a wooden platform stands stark and ominous. You reach the square where a crowd has formed, their breath visible in the chilly air, their tunics and cloaks a sea of browns and grays, lawful but heavy with tension. The platform, rough-hewn and weathered, is a pyre, its wood stacked neatly but unlit, a silent threat under the dawn's pale sky. At its base stands Alice, her crimson dress bold against the gray morning, her hands bound loosely with rope. Her flower charm glints at her wrist, a small anchor of defiance, but her face is pale, her eyes fixed on the ground. Beside her is the executioner, a burly man named Ralph, his face shadowed under a hood, his hands gripping a torch unlit but heavy with possibility. The air smells of damp wood and fear, and you feel a chill thinking of the York burning rumor that has haunted Witchwood's whispers. You stand at the crowd's edge, the cobblestones cold beneath your feet, and watch Ralph shift uneasily, his torch dipping as if too heavy to hold. Sir William the magistrate stands nearby, his blue robes somber in the dawn light, his face unreadable. "Alice Weaver," he says, his voice steady but low, "you stand accused of defying the king's law with your crimson dress. What say you?" Alice lifts her chin, her voice clear despite the tremor in it. "I wove beauty, not crime, my lord. If that's a sin, let it burn bright." The crowd murmurs, some nodding, others crossing themselves, and you think of Ellen's hidden ribbon, Marjorie's green cloak, and John's scarlet tunic, each a spark in Witchwood's rebellion. Historically, executions for sumptuary law violations were rare in 14th century England, with fines or public humiliation more common, as seen in court records from London and York. Burning was typically reserved for heresy or witchcraft, yet rumors like York's fueled fear of harsher punishments. Historians debate Ralph's hesitation. Dr. Laura Crombie suggests executioners, often locals, were reluctant to harm neighbors, citing cases of delayed or abandoned sentences, while others, like Dr. Mark Ormrod, argue social pressures or personal grudges could push them to act, especially in divided villages. Was Ralph's reluctance a sign of compassion or fear of Witchwood's judgment if he lit the pyre? The mist swirls, obscuring the truth like the smoke that hasn't yet risen. You notice Ralph's hands, calloused and scarred, trembling as he holds the torch. He glances at Alice, and you see a flicker of doubt in his eyes, a human moment that binds him to her. "I've known her since she was a child," he mutters to a nearby guard, his voice barely audible. "This dress, it's just cloth." The guard shrugs, but you catch a softness in his stance, as if he too questions the law. You think of Sir William's hesitation in the hall, Father Gregory's trembling sermon, and Brother Edmund's ink-stained doubt, each caught in Witchwood's web of laws and loyalties. A villager nearby, his cloak patched, whispers to his companion, "If they burn her, they'll have to burn half the village. My wife's got a purple shawl hidden away." You smile, imagining Master Hugh chasing shawls and ribbons through Witchwood, a light jest in the heavy air. A child's voice breaks the tension, Tom the Forest King pushing through the crowd, his green ribbon tied in his hair. "Don't hurt Alice," he shouts, his small fists clenched. The crowd chuckles, a ripple of warmth, and Ralph's lips twitch as if tempted to smile. "Back, lad," he says gently, "or I'll have to tie you up in green next." Tom pouts but retreats, and you laugh softly, thinking of John's scarlet quip to Hugh and the acolyte's clumsy jest in the church. The moment eases the square's weight, but Alice's eyes meet yours, and you see fear beneath her defiance, a mirror to Ellen's trembling fingers and Marjorie's weary resolve. Sir William raises a hand, silencing the crowd. The law is clear, he says, but his voice falters, and he glances at Ralph, then at Alice. Yet mercy has its place. The crowd holds its breath, and you wonder if he'll spare her or if the pyre's threat is enough. Ralph lowers his torch, its unlit wick brushing the ground, and you think of Giles's tale of the blue silk traveler fined but not flogged, and Bishop Anselm's golden robe untouched by law. Witchwood's tapestry is woven with contradictions, each thread a risk, and you feel the village's heart beating in the silence. Historians might argue whether Ralph's hesitation was kindness or cowardice, but here in the dawn's mist it feels like a plea for Alice's life. The sun breaks through the clouds, casting a soft glow over the square, and you step back, the lavender sprig scent mingling with the damp wood's musk. The crowd waits their breaths, a collective whisper, and you think of Thomas's hidden green cloth, Sir Robert's faded banner, and the inn's smoky tales. Witchwood's secrets are poised on the edge of a flame, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of Alice and her crimson dress. For now you linger in the square, the air heavy with mist and mercy, and let the village's quiet tension lull you, a story unfinished in the morning's light. The morning mist in Witchwood lingers, curling around the village square like a soft veil, as you step away from the unlit pyre where Alice stood, her crimson dress a defiant flame against the dawn. The air is heavy with the scent of damp wood, and the faint lingering musk of the crowd's fear now fading as they disperse. Your cloak brushes against your legs, the lavender sprig inside, releasing its soothing fragrance, a quiet echo of Alice's flower charm, Marjorie's green cloak, and Ellen's hidden yellow ribbon. The cobblestones are slick under your boots, reflecting the pale sun, and you hear the soft clink of a bucket. Ascertain the historical context and accuracy of the chronicler's role and the debate surrounding the repeal or enforcement of sumptuary laws in rural settings like Witchwood. The chronicler's fading page is a metaphor for the incomplete records that leave historians guessing, much like the villagers' uncertainty about Alice's fate. You follow the path away from the square, drawn to a small stone building near the church where a chronicler, Master Simon, records Witchwood's history. The building is quiet, its walls cool and mossy, the air inside thick with the dusty scent of old parchment, and the faint tang of wax from a single candle flickering on a wooden desk. Shelves sag under the weight of bound manuscripts, their leather covers cracked like dry earth, and a quill rests beside an open page, its ink faded to a ghostly brown. Simon, an elderly man with a stooped back, sits hunched over his work, his fingers gnarled but steady, tracing lines that capture the village's life. You sit on a bench, the wood creaking softly, its surface worn smooth, and watch him pause, his eyes distant as if seeing the past. "You're here for stories," Simon says, his voice thin as the parchment before him. "Or perhaps the law's shadow." You nod, thinking of Alice's crimson dress and Ralph's unlit torch. Both, you say, and what's written of them. He smiles, a faint curve like a crack in stone. Laws fade like ink, but stories endure. His words are gentle, and you notice a small brass pendant around his neck shaped like a quill, its edges worn like Alice's flower charm or Ellen's star bead. It's a human moment, this quiet pride in his craft tying him to Witchwood's rebels who wear their forbidden hues. Historically, chroniclers in 14th century England, like those in monastic scriptoria, recorded local events, but sumptuary laws enforcement in rural areas like Witchwood is murky. Manuscripts like the Chronicon Anglicanum mention fines for forbidden colors, but few detail executions or repeals. Historians debate the law's fate. Dr. Francis Andrews argues they were quietly ignored in villages by the late 14th century, citing sparse rural records, while others, like Dr. John Stiles, suggest they persisted informally and forced through social pressure rather than courts. Was Alice's trial a rare enforcement or a relic of a fading law, its repeal lost in Simon's crumbling pages? The candle's flicker offers no clarity, only shadows dancing across faded ink. You lean closer, the desk's rough wood catching your sleeve, and see Simon's page, a record of Alice's summons, its ink still wet, noting her crimson dress, but no verdict. Will you write her punishment, you ask, thinking of the pyre's threat? Simon sighs, his pendant glinting. I write what I see, he says. Sir William's mercy is unwritten for now. His hesitation mirrors Ralph's reluctant hand, and you think of Marjorie's green cloak, John's scarlet tunic, and the blue silk traveler in Giles's tale. The chronicler's page is incomplete, a human moment of uncertainty, as if Witchwood's story pauses, waiting for Alice's fate. A sudden knock startles you. Tom, the forest king, with his green ribbon, bursts in, clutching a scrap of parchment. Master Simon, write my name, he says, grinning. Simon chuckles, a dry sound like rustling pages. In green ink, I suppose that'd cost you a fine. Tom laughs and you smile, imagining Master Hugh chasing ribbons and ink through Witchwood. The boy's energy is a spark lightening the room's dusty air, and you think of John's sunrise jest and the acolyte's clumsy quip in the church. Simon waves Tom off, muttering, back to your forest, lad, and the boy darts out, leaving a smudge of dirt on the floor. You glance at the chronicle, its faded lines whispering of laws that may no longer bind. Do you think the laws are fading, you ask? Simon pauses, his quill hovering. Laws bend like reeds, he says. Alice's dress, Ellen's ribbon, their threads the village weaves against them. His words echo Ellen's quiet strength and Marjorie's weary resolve, and you wonder if Sir William's mercy signals a shift, or if the pyre's shadow lingers. You think of Bishop Anselm's golden robe, Thomas's hidden green cloth, and the festival's dangerous hues, each a defiance recorded or unwritten in Simon's pages. The candle gutters, its wax pooling like forgotten laws, and you rise, the lavender sprig scent mingling with the room's dust. Outside, the mist is lifting the village, waking with soft sounds, cartwheels, creaking voices calling a rooster's crow. Historians might argue whether Witchwood's laws were repealed or simply ignored, but here in the chronicler's dim light, Simon's fading page feels like a mirror to the village's heart, uncertain, defiant, alive. You think of Alice's crimson dress, Sir Robert's faded banner, Giles's smoky tail, and Father Gregory's trembling sermon, each a thread in Witchwood's tapestry. The chronicler's quill pauses its story unfinished, and you know you'll return to see what becomes of Alice and her forbidden Hugh. For now you step into the morning, the air fresh with dew and wax, and let the village's secrets settle around you like a fading page. The morning in Witchwood unfolds slowly, the mist thinning to reveal a sky soft and blue like a forgotten thread of forbidden silk. You leave the chronicler's stone building, Master Simon's fading page still vivid in your mind, its incomplete lines holding Alice's uncertain fate. The air is fresh, carrying the scent of dew-soaked grass and the faint, dusty tang of parchment blending with the lavender sprig in your cloak, a quiet echo of Alice's flower charm. Your boots crunch on the gravel path, the village waking with gentle sounds, a cart's creak, a woman's soft call, the distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer. You think of Alice's crimson dress, Marjorie's green cloak, Ellen's hidden yellow ribbon, and the chronicler's unwritten mercy, each a thread in Witchwood's tapestry of defiance against the sumptuary laws of 1363. Drawn back to the square, you sense a change, a lightness in the air, as if the village holds its breath for a final note. The square is alive, but quieter now. The pyre dismantled, its wood scattered like forgotten threats. Villagers move through their tasks, their tunics and cloaks still muted browns, grays, dull greens, but you notice flashes of color. A woman's purple scarf peeking from a basket, a child's blue ribbon tied to a stick. Alice stands at her stall, her crimson dress no longer hidden beneath a gray cloak, its hue bold against the morning light. Her flower charm glints and her eyes are bright, though shadowed with relief. Sir William the magistrate stands nearby, his blue robes somber, but his face softer as if a weight has lifted. The air smells of fresh bread and the faint smoke of a distant hearth, and you feel the village exhale its laws, loosening like a loosened thread. You approach Alice, the cobblestones warm underfoot, and sit on a bench near her stall, the wood worn smooth. "You're free," you say, nodding at her dress. She smiles, her stained fingers brushing the lavender bundles. For now, she says, her voice soft but steady. "Sir William called it mercy, but I call it sense. Even magistrates tire of chasing colors." You laugh, thinking of Master Hugh's reluctant gaze at the festival, and say he'd need a whole army to catch Witchwood's rainbows. She grins, a spark of her old mischief. I and Tom's already leading it with that green ribbon. The jest lightens the air, and you think of Tom's Forest King antics and the innkeeper's quip about golden ale, each a spark in Witchwood's quiet rebellion. Historically, sumptuary laws in 14th century England began to wane by the late 1300s as economic shifts and social unrest weakened their enforcement. Records from rural courts like those in the Winchester rolls show fewer fines by the 1370s, suggesting laws were repealed or ignored in villages like Witchwood. Historians debate why Dr. Francis Andrews argues growing trade and wealth blurred class lines, making color restrictions impractical, while others, like Dr. Christopher Dyer, suggest local resistance like Alice's forced leniency. Yet a mystery lingers. A woman in crimson, mentioned in a faded chronicle, vanished from Witchwood after a trial, her fate unwritten. Was she Alice spared but exiled, or another rebel lost to time? The square's warmth holds no answers, only the glow of her dress. You notice a small crowd gathering, their voices low but hopeful. Marjorie, her green cloak bold in the sunlight, shares herbs with a neighbor, her leaf locket glinting. Ellen passes by, her yellow ribbon now tied openly in her hair, a small defiance mirroring Alice's. A human moment unfolds as Alice hands a lavender sprig to a young girl, Tom's sister, her blue ribbon from the church now worn proudly. "For courage," Alice says, and the girl beams, clutching it like a treasure. You think of Sir Robert's stag medallion, Simon's quill pendant, and the blue silk traveller in Giles's tale, each a token tying Witchwood's rebels together. The village feels alive, its colors returning like spring after a long winter. A sudden laugh breaks the quiet. Tom runs through the square, his green ribbon flapping, shouting, "I'm king of colors." A villager, his tunic patched, calls, "Mind the bishop doesn't crown you in gold, lad." The crowd chuckles and you smile, imagining Bishop Anselm's golden robe clashing with Tom's ribbon. The moment is light, but you notice Master Hugh watching from a distance, his face softer, as if he too feels the laws fading. You think of Ralph's unlit torch, Brother Edmund's ink-stained doubt, and Father Gregory's trembling sermon, each a thread in Witchwood's loosening tapestry. You lean back, the bench's warmth grounding you, and watch Alice tie another lavender bundle, her crimson dress a beacon of change. The mystery of the vanished woman lingers a shadow on Simon's fading page, but here in the square's light, Alice's freedom feels like a victory. Historians might debate whether Witchwood's laws dissolved or simply faded, but the village's colors, crimson, green, yellow, blue, bloom like defiance. You think of Thomas's hidden green cloth, John's scarlet tunic and the festival's dangerous hues, each a stitch in a story now unfolding. The square hums its sounds, voices, laughter, the clink of coins blending into a lullaby, and you know Witchwood's colors will endure even if its mysteries remain. The sun climbs higher over Witchwood, its light softening the village's edges, bathing the square in a warm golden glow. You linger by Alice's stall, the lavender sprig in your cloak, a quiet comfort, its scent mingling with the bread and smoke of the village's heart. The cobblestones are warm now, the air alive with the soft hum of life, children laughing, merchants calling, a cart creaking in the distance. Alice's crimson dress glows, Marjorie's green cloak sways, and Ellen's yellow ribbon catches the breeze, each a thread of defiance woven into Witchwood's tapestry. The laws that bound them seem to fade like ink on Master Simon's crumbling page, and the village breathes easier, its colors no longer hidden. You sit on the bench, the wood smooth and warm, and watch the crowd disperse, their steps light as if a weight has lifted. Tom's green ribbon dances in his hair, and you smile, thinking of his Forest King dreams. The mystery of the vanished woman lingers a whisper in the chronicles, but Witchwood's story feels complete for now. The air grows softer, the sounds fading, cartwheels, voices, a distant bell blending into a gentle rhythm that pulls you toward sleep. You close your eyes, the lavender's scent wrapping around you, and imagine Alice weaving, Marjorie healing, Ellen singing, their colors bright against the dusk. Witchwood rests its secrets safe in the folds of night, and you drift, carried by the village's lullaby. Quiet night, good night.